experienced I become and the more that I'm able to just express myself in that way and trust myself, then I build that muscle and then it becomes quicker and it becomes easier.
Welcome to the Human Design Projectors Society podcast. I'm your host, Zette Harbour. Join me as we explore and dive deeply into the brilliance, the beauty, and the power of what it is to be a projector. Hi everybody, Zette Harbour with the Human Design Projector Society and podcast. And I just wanted to give a brief introduction to this particular interview because I'm a 3/6 profile and I decided to experiment with a different video recording platform for that interview. And so, not surprisingly, but unfortunately, I found out that it really didn't work. And so there are elements in this recording that I'm not in love with. Like there are different sounds, bumps and noises that I can't get rid of, and some lack of video clarity. However, Jeanne's stories are so valuable and so inspiring and enriching. I really want to make sure that, the light gets shined on the beauty and brilliance and power of her nature as a projector in order for you to recognize yourself as well. So I'm glad you're here. Enjoy the exploration of Jeanne's chart with me, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Welcome, Jeanne, to the Human Design Projector Society podcast. I am so delighted to have you here with me today to explore your chart. Please tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Seth. I'm really thrilled to be here and definitely have kind of a foundational knowledge of human design, so any insight is always really fascinating and appreciated. I live in New York and I'm originally from the West Coast, but I moved here to study and pursue theater. So I'm a theater actor, writer, and restaurant server, as well as a mindfulness and meditation teacher and practitioner. And I got really into my meditation practice over the pandemic, and that's where I pursued teacher training and started teaching and doing some coaching online as well. So that's been a really amazing gift to get to honor my practice and share it with others and cultivate community around that. So yeah, very passionate about community and mindfulness and process and creativity. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. What an exciting adventure you're on.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, let's take a look at your chart. And I'd love to hear if you have any insights or experiences on what it is to that projector, particularly that projector aura that is so focused and absorbing, and sometimes even called probing, right?
Yeah, I think it feels really correct that if I am trying to push to be a certain way or to fit in or to be seen or recognized, any of those things, then it doesn't go well for me most of the time. And if I am just able to more lean back into myself and just be present and be seen, then allow myself to just be seen like in a vulnerable way, then I am really appreciated and recognized and told that I'm special and all of those things. So I definitely feel that polarizing aspect of it and especially for me, it's like very obvious, in terms of working in restaurants and waiting tables, because I'm basically treating everyone the same. And the response is very extreme on either direction. So it's, whoa, it can be upsetting. And I think there's been many years of my life where I didn't know about this and I didn't understand that, like just the mechanics of energy and the aura and everything. And really difficult to not take it personally when I'm perceived a certain way. And just having this language has really helped me a lot, just to understand that it's all a projection and it's not about me, and that I can detach from other people's perceptions in that way. And I guess in both ways, because also not to get overly attached to when people are really intrigued by me or celebrating me, like not to get graspy with that either, like that it needs to be that way, just understanding what's at play.
Yeah, that is really a challenge. I really appreciate you articulating that so well, that it's so enlivening to be recognized and invited as a projector, that it is easy to get really attached to that. And I feel like you're also pointing us toward a little bit about your profile. So I'm excited to dive into that with you as well. I feel like you've really started to show us a little bit of your own experience of that strategy, projector strategy of wait for recognition and invitation. And I'm curious if you have any insights or experience of that you feel inspired to share about the difference between what it's like to just get an invitation and what it might be like to feel recognized and then invited.
Yeah, I think the recognition is really feels personal, feels like I'm really being recognized for who I am and the value that I bring, and that there is a invitation and an interest. And for me, I feel like most of my examples are like work related in all of these different fields. So I'm thinking about acting right now, where like acting and waiting for the invitation like doesn't seem like it would work at all, because it's so much about, that's not the messaging that we've received. It's like very about being aggressive and assertive and pounding the pavement and knocking down doors and cold calling and all of this stuff, which I have done. And so that's another kind of example where I'm like, I've really done all of that, like where it's like anything that anybody ever told me to do in terms of pursuing that, I did it and never really yielded results from that. But when I was more just present and available and like doing my thing and acting, or like and meeting people in a natural way, then it's come from those relationships. Most of the things I've done, I actually haven't auditioned for. Like it's come from relationships that have offered invitations, and I wouldn't have known that really at the time either. That's what was happening. But I feel like that's just like a perfect example of what you're talking about, where I'm recognized and seen for who I am, and there's a project, and it's, oh, there's a place for you in this project. Do you want to be part of it? As opposed to just like maybe a kind of random invitation or something, where it's not necessarily as much about me and doesn't have that personal relationship, but it might just be like a blanket kind of invitation, which wouldn't be the same thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yes, I'm not sure I can think of a more challenging industry or career to be in as a projector, because of all the conventional wisdom. Get out and knock on every door, initiate.
Right.
And then respond to whatever auditions are available, things like that.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, it's like I'm repelling everybody that I meet by doing it that way.
Yeah. Wow. What an amazing challenge. Thanks for giving us some insight into that. So I would love to hear if you have inspirations around the signature of success, theme of bitterness, particularly like when you first learned that you were a projector and that bitterness was the not self theme. Did that show up for you in any way?
Definitely, I felt like leading up to the pandemic, like that was a big kind of shift in so many people's lives. And up until that point, like I said, I had moved to New York. This is where I went to school for theater. And coming out of school, I was always working in restaurants and doing plays and making it work by having both, and really just filling up every second of every day and commuting and all those things. So I was just feeling definitely really burnt out. And I remember like before everything shut down, just feeling like I just need a week where I could just be with myself and just figure out what it is that I even want to do, or what is my next step. And I just don't even have that time. Like I can't take any time to just be like it. It was just very frustrating. And then when everything shut down, because that was the industry I was in, I was able to be for some time, the first time really in my adult life, and just reassess. And that was where I was feeling like, and for a long time feeling like I really wanted to have more meaning and give back. And the thing with acting and theater and having that passion and just feeling, what is it about that? And like, how could that be expressed in other ways? And like, how can I use my gifts in other ways that are creative and that are in community and supporting people and connecting? So meditation was something that had really helped me. And I felt, okay, this is the next natural best step to really deepen my own practice and learn how to facilitate and share that with others. But I think thinking about that time, that's just like a very clear thing where I was feeling really bitter, really burnt out, really frustrated. And like that I have this desire to be seen, to be recognized, to connect, and just the frustration of having that in moments, but just feeling like so much of my time is just spent in order to support those few moments that are like far between. So it was just like not enough in that way. And yeah, so that would be something that I would think about with those themes and those words. And then also the success, I feel like just resonates because there is still that frustration of what is success and feeling like I want success. And then, yes, I've had success in some moments. And what does it really mean to me and how to redefine it and really lean in on the gratitude that I do have and that I am able to do so many things that I love and just the things that I love about my life and how that makes me feel successful to recognize those things as opposed to feeling that lack and also feeling that saying before the conventional wisdom, like that there's so much, like, I mean, in any field, you know, like what success means and how to get it. And then meanwhile, like, is that even ever what I wanted? Is that what drew me to any of this? Like, probably not. That wasn't the initial spark. So just redefining too is like where I'm at. I don't have my definition, but I try to have that awareness around it.
Yeah, that's so great what you're sharing there about redefining success, like genuinely understanding what is success for me, because we are surrounded by a world that wants to tell us what success actually looks like and what it's even supposed to feel like. And, you know, it most often doesn't even feel the way it's promised.
Mm-hmm.
You have a splenic authority, and it is defined by the channel of perfected form, a design of survival, and you have 4 planetary activations. So that is quite a bit of energy in this singular channel that you have defined in your body graph. Are you connected to your experience, either this channel, the alertness of the splenic center, to what is healthy for you, what isn't, particularly as it relates to obviously direction and self-love with that gate 10? Do you have any thoughts that you feel inspired to share about that?
Yeah, I don't know, like, channel of perfected form, but I think that, I guess with the splenic authority, like, it's interesting to learn that about myself because I can, like, very easily recognize the times that I haven't taken the direction that was best for me and just really wrapped up in like the opinions of others and other people's advice, and also just going with impulses. I think that's been something that has been confusing for me, especially when I was just more coming into my own and when I was younger, feeling kind of the difference between impulse and intuition. And I think that there was a lot of feeling at that time that impulse was intuition, but it was just impulse, being impulsive in unhealthy ways too. So I feel like that is always just like an interesting thing for me. But the more that I have grown confident and come into my authenticity more and just like coming back to myself more and more, I feel like now I am more in touch with that and that it's not really possible for me to go too far outside of myself because I'm like coming back to myself in an intentional way every day. So it's okay. I don't think that I'm really gonna be like, oh my gosh, now I'm so all over the place or something, because there is a center to come back to. But I definitely didn't always feel that way.
Yeah, I can imagine that meditative practices must be really rich for a splenic authority projector, because the splenic speaks so quietly and it's gone. At least this is my understanding. So to me, it is a pretty fascinating authority. I know each authority has its like challenges and gifts. I do feel like the splenic has a very unique challenge, because we don't live in a world that wants to give us room to listen to that very quiet, very spontaneous, but also gone in a second voice, and base actual decisions off of it that somebody else might want us to explain or rationally tell them why this is a good idea.
Definitely, yeah. And I think, yeah, it just comes, I guess, from going more in that direction, and then that's something that builds trust, and then I'm trusting myself more, and then I just feel like the freedom to listen maybe more to those voices and those instincts.
Yeah, absolutely. All I can say is thank goodness you're doing it, because the world is a richer place when all of us are following our authority. And also, I think for projectors who are splenic authority, if they can see themselves in another who has splenic authority, who is finding their way in a way that might tell them something about themselves, right? So anyone watching this or listening, for them to perhaps potentially hear your words and recognize something in themselves that might, as you say, grow that confidence, deepen the connection, and the belief that not only is it okay, but it's like the best way. People with the channel of perfected form are here to create what they love and love what they create. Recognition is not their motivation. They have the capacity to love themselves enough to stay true to themselves while intuitively behaving in ways that ensure their survival in society. Love to hear any thoughts you might have.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it is that and I've said that, I think now, just I've started a new job, and then dealing with just scheduling changes and like the unfamiliarity of how it's going to go and stuff, and just feeling I just want to be able to do what I want to do. I want to be able to do what I love to do, and how I have, especially like since the pandemic, because up until that time just doing a lot of theater, and then since then being more in this open receptive space of being able to do like some Zoom plays and do a play here and there. But I've also been pursuing the meditation and mindfulness teaching, and so expanding that net, but still and I started writing. So I've just been, okay, I am feeling a little bit like, what is the best thing for me to be focusing on? What's that pressure to yield the best results or something. But ultimately just feeling if I can just have something creative going on, then it's gonna be okay. I just have to have enough freedom to take an improv class or be in a play, but that I can also just work and do what I need to do to support myself. Like it said, I feel like that really resonates, just like figuring out a way to survive in this society while still being able to do what I love. That is like my life.
This is a really powerful aspect of your design, because it is your only defined channel, and it's defined, a lot of it, you've got the 10th gate activated 3 times in your conscious design. It's a 5th line in your conscious Mercury, so what you're here to communicate, how you communicate. Then you've got the 2nd line in the Jupiter in your conscious design. So that's going to be the laws you are here to live by. And then down here, again, a 2nd line with Neptune. And that's potentially going to be related to your spirituality, to mysticism, but also maybe veiled from you, which it's already here. So, I'm not sure that veiling would be something you would even notice. So let's just click open real quick for a second here. Your personality Mercury, gate 10, treading, the gate of the behavior of the self. And the subtitle is the underlying code of behavior, successful interaction despite circumstances. What I would sense here is, an underlying code of behavior, right? So how are you learning, or how are you choosing to behave in how you express, which will ensure successful interaction despite any circumstances, right? That apparently would maybe interfere with that. And because it's fifth line, it's in this called the heretic. So a direct and overt change to norms. It's also exalted because it is activation in Jupiter. So it's quite likely that you might recognize yourself expressing principled behavior, which directly challenges tradition. So I'd love to hear if that brings anything up for you. We can start one line and one part at a time. Principled behavior which directly challenges tradition. Do you find yourself, based on what feels really truly correct for you or right, looking at a tradition and challenging it in some way, just having some sense of, as a heretic, kind of saying to people, hey, it doesn't have to be this way, it could be this other way, and this would be better?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. I think that, I guess the way that it's resonated in my life is just that feeling of not wanting to be hypocritical. That has been like a big thing. And especially as I was growing up and not having as many words or experiences, that was like a big thing in my adolescence, of just seeing hypocrisy and hating hypocrisy, not wanting to be hypocritical, not wanting to be fake. I feel like that's coming up for me with this, because it just created a lot of frustration, and then to see that in so many people and places, and then I think that it just really is poison to me to be fake, like to not be acting in integrity. So like the times that I have done that, it's just been horrific for me. So that feels like, yeah, a code of ethics that is impossible for me not to live by. And if I try to not live by it, it just is like not, it just doesn't work. Where it feels like some people are able to be a little bit looser or something with that. And there's definitely a underlying need to be, I don't know if like sincere is the right word, but yeah, just like in my truth.
Yeah, principled behavior. And traditions, they're not always like good things. It just means it's what everybody does, and norms, right? So if you're in an environment where the norm is for people to be hypocritical or hide who they truly are, and you are like, that's not me, and that is a direct and overt challenge to that particular norm and your code of behavior, which ensures your successful interaction, doesn't mean that the other people are going to respond like, yay, we love that you're challenging us. In fact, the fifth line energy very often can equally attract positive projection or negative projection. And if a heretic is saying to someone, oh, no way, what you're doing is wrong, like it's poison, then potentially people would respond with a negative projection or even resist it.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And then also just like the situations and groups or whatever where I'm perceived that I think that I'm better than everyone, or I'm too good for something, or that I think becomes the perception, like in a situation like what you're talking about.
Yeah, we'll definitely dive in more deeply to your profile, because first of all, this is a line 5, just like you are a 5-1. So it's going to be very resonant with you. And it would be normal and natural for some people to look at you like, who do you think you are? So that's the one activation of your gate 10. Then we've got the Jupiter, which is a second line. It's called line 2, the Hermit. So the successful sidestepping of behavioral requirements through isolation. And again, it's got the exaltation because you do have that Mercury. I'd be curious, any of this speaks to how you have responded to being able to live your code of behavior despite circumstances, your own behavior of self, and maybe needing to be independent through isolation, which now I just realized meditation sounds perfect for that.
Yeah, I think that definitely the meditation, and then it does seem like just the situations where I've been outcast from like a group or something and kind of had to start over. That's been a theme at different times, like that has played out. But it's interesting because I feel like there's also just all the conditioning around that. So there's really a desire always to be connected and where I've stayed in relationships or jobs or groups or whatever, like past the point where they were healthy, because it was just difficult to have that separation and that fear of isolation. So that's been something that was like definitely hard for me to face, but now that I do feel more secure and confident, like I feel like I am able to have my own back and trust myself and trust just the process of my life. But that's probably pretty recent that I feel like that security just in myself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. That's very deep, and you can feel the depth of it and just the power and the potency of that in making that choice. I think fifth lines in general have to come to their peace with the fact that no matter what they want or do or even say or how they feel they're being, they will step into the world, and without anything on their part, people will project them. And it might feel good and it might not feel good, right? And to make peace with that you're going to still be who you are, no matter what.
Yeah.
The other aspect of this channel is your unconscious Mercury. That's the intuitive gate. So it may be more likely that you might not even necessarily consciously know when this intuitive clarity is up or where it's coming from or why it's coming. But it's the extraordinary power of, and for you, this has a 6-line energy called utilization. Now, you don't have either the detriment or the exaltation, so it's possible that you could at times experience both of these things or each of these things. The exaltation is quite long, so I don't want to overwhelm you or anyone watching, but I'm thinking the phrase here, acceptance that clarity is a double-edged sword. Situations where understanding cannot lead to rectification, or I would say resolution in a way. And because the exaltation is in Uranus, Uranus carries a sense of unusualness and also chaos or order, right? Potentially those energies might come along with that. Where there is no end, only the possibilities of the intuition can make the best out of a difficult situation. And because for you, your intuition here is unconsciously defined, it's even like intuition's already really like hard to pin down. So if you experience that even your own sense of intuition is a little bit like slippery or a little bit like smoke and you can't quite grasp it, it would make total sense because this is an unconscious aspect of you. And so you could also experience the possibility that when intuition cannot solve a problem, there can be a tendency to frustration and anger. That's just normal human emotion when we're frustrated enough, right? We just feel angry. So I'd be curious if you feel inspired to share anything about those intuitive hits, that intuitive clarity. Does it feel sometimes like you just can't even explain how it showed up, let alone what it was saying to you? Or tell me more about that.
I guess what's coming up for me with just a double-edged sword is just the different, more like toxic or like abusive situations that I've been in, and the clarity of there not being a resolution, there not being a way to move forward in this context. And it has come easier the more experienced I've become and the more connected I am to my own boundaries and my own intention and values and everything. So I think that I ended up in situations like that because I didn't have boundaries and I was just to be treated certain ways and like hoping that it would get better. And then it was a big moment for me with an abusive relationship to get out of that relationship. And then just as I've become more in touch with myself and, like I said, having my own back, and that I'm not going to put myself in bad situations, that I am more able to honor that intuitive hit and then be like, no, this is not for me, or it's only going to work if this and this is something that happens. And yeah, so I guess it's like I was saying before, just like the more experienced I become and the more that I'm able to just express myself in that way and trust myself, then I build that muscle and then it becomes quicker and it becomes easier. And I know for a lot of people, just this exploration of saying no and having like boundaries around time and projects and whatever. And that there was like one project where I was really wrapped up with those people, and it was something that I had always done anytime that I had been asked, and it was really a huge part of my life. And then this one was just like not something that I wanted to do, and I started out by saying yes, and then I went to one rehearsal and I was just like, I can't do this, I cannot do it, like I'm not doing it. Like just that thing of being able to feel that more, like, it's not possible for me to do this and be happy with myself. And then I said no and expressed myself. And I remember just at that time having a complete breakdown just about saying no. And it was just so hard for me. And it was like a huge loss by saying that and like creating that disappointment in the other person, I'm sure, and just everything about changing a dynamic. But then doing it and having such a strong reaction like gave me clarity, because I was like, this is not normal. Like I should not be like feeling this way about just like saying no to something that I don't want to do. So it's been a journey.
That makes total sense. Yeah. And that's why I brought back up your personality, Mercury, direct and overt challenge to what the other person or the context or the group were thinking was normal, right? That you're always just going to say yes without any concern for yourself, and that we're choosing a different code of behavior. Another really important element of our design is our conscious sun. It's the light we're here to shine in the world. So let's take a look at yours. It's gate 61, called Inner Truth, the gate of mystery, the awareness of universal underlying principles. And it's fifth line, called influence. You do have it exalted or detrimented, which means you potentially could experience either the pressure to know, result in influence and wisdom, or the pressure in knowing challenges and demand acceptance. You do have an undefined head center, so there can be pressure to know and to answer questions, to be inspired or answer the questions of any kind of thing, and maybe you have a challenge in knowing what's important to think about and what isn't, which questions are important and which questions aren't. So there you have here the pressure to know, and that may result in influence and wisdom. So perhaps you've experienced this pressure to know as you've engaged in different ways of experiencing life. It's a pressure to know that sounds like it's resulting in your influence and wisdom. And there will also be days where there will be this pressure to know, but it'll be attached to like resenting challenges and demanding acceptance. Which
So the light that I'm here to share in the world would be the wisdom.
Yeah, what I understand, I read something by Linda Bonnell about the exaltations and the detriments. So exaltation sounds like a wonderful positive word. Detriment sounds like a negative word, but that's not really what they're meant to be. The way she described it was, if you're following your strategy and authority, you're more likely to experience the exaltation. That's all. But some people have the detriment in their design. So it's not right or wrong. It's just to observe, oh, it's normal for me to potentially feel this pressure to know, and I might resent the challenges to what I feel that I now know, and I'm going to demand the acceptance of other people, or the acceptance maybe even of yourself. I don't know. It doesn't specify, right? So there's a lot of spaciousness in this sentence for a variety of ways that this could manifest in life. So if you feel pressure to solve the mysteries, get to the inner truth, get these, I need to nail down these universal underlying principles, then that's when you know you're experiencing this energy, which is correct for you. However, it is not the energy that is here to make your decisions for you, because your decision maker, as we know, is your splenic authority. So it's not incorrect for you to feel pressure to know and to be drawn to the exploration of inner truth and mysteries and universal principles. It actually is an area that, because it is your line and this is an undefined center, this is a potential for wisdom for you throughout your lifetime. So others may come to you for your light in answering their own questions about universal principles or wisdom or influence or the mysteries of life.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, and it's helpful to know that it's not incorrect to feel the pressure to know. And it's interesting because I do really love talking with people and working with people, and you know that the mindfulness, like I said, has also been some coaching, and then just anything that I like, the ways that I have to support people and listen and engage with what they're saying has come from my own experiences, like my own, that's like where the wisdom has been born from. So that feels like something that I can, like, that would carry me through my life and that I can continue to grow into.
That's awesome. And it's also because it is your sun and it's the fifth line, that is your sun and earth, whatever line they are, that's going to determine your profile, sun and earth on your personality, and the sun and earth on your designs, where you will get the 5-1. So it's your sun, but it's also a really big reason of why you are a 5-1. And then your earth, in your conscious earth, is gate 62, preponderance of the small, the gate of details. Caution, patience, and detail produce excellent limitation. And the fifth line is metamorphosis. When excellence is achieved, action is necessary. So that's an interesting kind of thing to explore, what that might feel like if you've experienced things in your life where you've achieved excellence and somehow it just feels natural for action to flow. And again, neither exaltation or detriment is noted here. Potentially the understanding that only when the details are complete can action or expression be initiated. I can only imagine when you're in a play, the details have to be complete before action or expression can be initiated, right? That just seems a really nice fit there. I'm sure it applies in many other ways, in many other situations. Or it can be when the details are organized, the need for attention demands expression. So again, there's lots of spaciousness in all of these for however, whatever rises up. This earth is a gift you are here to bring into form in the world. It's how you will bring your gifts into form in a very particular way. it's not how you make decisions. You are a splenic authority. And so even though this will be information and awarenesses, it'll be things you observe or feel, maybe pulled toward. Details aren't what you're here to base your decision on. And I'm curious if that resonates at all.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking of like the ways that like the details give me that confidence. And yeah, like you said, like putting together a play, and then it's like putting all the pieces together and having everything that I know, and then just that thing of being able to be free within form and really resonates with me. And yeah, and it's just funny then with the perceptions. Recently at this new job, someone from the management team came up to me, and she was just started talking about something like as if I was the one who had said it. And she's just, oh, that was a great point, like da da da, you know, because it was like prices didn't add up correctly and this and that. And she's like, we're going to do this, we're going to change it, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't me, but thanks. And she's, oh, that wasn't you? And she's like, it seemed, oh, like Jeanne's kind of smart thing. She's like, really, that wasn't you? Like no, but thanks for letting me know. I'm glad you pointed it out. But I just thought it was like funny that, you know, whoever said it, that there was the assumption that I was the one who had pointed out this kind of detail-oriented thing.
Detail, and also a kind of a leadership thing. I think the word general, like as a role, is associated with line 5. And so people would naturally project on you that you must have, and that they want to look to you for the next thing. What a great example. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. So now let's dive in. So many of the things that we've talked about and that you've shared really keep pointing back to your profile as a 5-1. I'll just share for anybody who isn't familiar with the 5th line that it's heretical. We've seen that. It's someone who is seen as a general or a leader who can not just lead people, but lead them to a better place. Lead them in a direction that's going to make things better. And that reminds me to go down and look at your motivation, which is over here on the right. And you have the 5th color. So you're a 5-1, and you also have a 5th color, guilt. Now, guilt might sound negative to people, but the labels Ra gave to the motivations is misleading, because someone who has correctly the guilt motivation is designed to notice what needs fixing, offer solutions for how to do it, really care about making things better for people. Really fascinating, because your 5th line profile and your 5th line motivation are very harmonic with each other. So it's very natural, I would imagine, for people to look at you and say, all right, this woman's got some answers for us. And I'd be curious to know, has that happened for you? Does it happen for you?
Yeah, I think I'm just coming out of this situation and training and everything all together for this job. And like I said, she asked me, or she assumed that I had pointed that out. And I do find that coming up a lot. And it feels with the recognition, like I've been thinking about it because I've been in situations where people are not looking to me like that, where I'm not seen that way, like I'm more the other, like we talked about, of like thinking that I'm better than everyone or something, and being more invisible in ways. So that to me has been a cue that like I am in the right place, because that part of me is being appreciated and being nurtured and celebrated in ways where it feels good, because it does feel like that is something that I genuinely have to offer. So to be seen in that way is satisfying.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And for a 5th line, at least from what I understand, what I've heard from others who have 5th line in their profile, when the opposite happens and you are perceived as a villain or a heretic or demonized, one day you're on the pedestal and the next day you're on the pyre being burned alive, right? Burnt at the stake kind of thing. And the sense that the 5th lines have expressed, which is they don't even know what changed. They didn't necessarily do anything or say anything different. It's literally that the projection of the other person changed. And so that's, I know, having had some students in classes that have shared their experiences, especially as a child, you don't even realize why people are projecting on you. And it can be, I think, very demoralizing to have all this projection, often negative, and not have any understanding of where it comes from. And everyone who's projecting on you thinks it's you. And so I know for children, it's particularly a powerful influence. The first line part of your profile, which is the unconscious aspect, is all about giving all the details, again, which really nicely fits with your 62. So getting the details, laying a secure foundation, investigating, researching, making sure that the stage is set. And so unconsciously, there's that part of you that really will be, always pulled to, let's get the roots in the ground. Let's get the foundation. However, the fifth line does take a risk in deciding to lead the charge, right? Or to step out in front as someone who, with a guilt motivation, may be offering solutions to the other, right?
Yeah, that's cool, because I think that's empowering just to use my voice, because I do think, just in those kinds of situations where it's happening, there are those things to me that are like, oh, this seems better, that seems better. Or we were talking about with this tech stuff, it's now because I do the mindfulness sessions on Zoom. So if I'm on a Zoom call and I see that people don't know how to do something, I really want to put in the chat, this is how you do it. I just want to be able to like assist in those ways or something. I don't know, encouraging to recognize that as something that is really inherent.
Yes. And that, this is just how you're built. And that with your splenic authority, you can give yourself the room to wait until you have that intuitive clarity before offering, right? You have the choice. You can do whatever you want, right? We can all do whatever we want. But in terms of when we're going to feel the greatest success and avoid bitterness, if you give yourself that space to just go, oh, yeah, I really want to like help fix that. And I have great ideas about how to do it. I've got the details. I've got the underlying principles, and I can influence and share wisdom here. And yes, you are allowed to not do anything until you have that intuitive clarity, right?
Yeah, that's great.
This has been really so wonderful. And I am so appreciative, so grateful for your willingness to be here, to share your stories, to explore your chart with me, and to dive into the brilliance and beauty of your design and who you are here to be and the gifts you're here to bring to the world.
Oh, thank you, Zette. I really appreciate it. And it's just really wonderful to have the time and your expertise and to be able to explore in this way. So I really appreciate it.